We'll now call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please read the roll call?
Mr. Braun, Mr. Moore,
Present.
Ms. Pace Snook,
Present.
Ms. Reclue,
Present.
Ms. Sabacher,
Present.
Mr. Shiverdecker,
Here.
Mr. Simmons,
Present.
and Mr. Stone. 6 council members present, 2 absent.
Thank you. At this time, we welcome Pastor Mike Krause in here to do our invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. He's kind of filling in, going to be doing half of the duties here to give Pastor Bruce a little break for a while. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Let us pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, as we come before you tonight, we thank you for this beautiful day, for the showers of rain that you gave us today. We thank you for life and liberty and freedoms, and we thank you for our city. We ask you, Father, that you will bless Mayor Cannell, that you will bless the council, those that are going through surgeries and those that are going through treatments and getting ready to. You bless them and help them through it. Be with their families. Be with our employees, Lord. We thank you for all of our dedicated employees and those that make all the city possible. We pray, Father, that you will give wisdom to our councilmen and to our mayor, that you will open their minds and their hearts and give them the wisdom and the surety of the decisions that they make. And we pray for our citizens, that you'll be with each one of them and help them. Be with all of our services and be with the police and the fire and the ambulance, that you will give them safety and traveling mercy as they go to and from the situations they're involved in. And we ask you, Lord, to bless tonight. And Father, just give them the decisions and the help they need. We pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
And now if you'll stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, we have a chance for comments from visitors. If you have a request to speak to the council, it'll be just a comment session. We won't interact with you, but we'd be more than glad to hear your comment or concern. If anybody chooses to, just give your name and your address and limit it to 5 minutes. Seeing no one come forward, we'll move on. Would you please, Madam Clerk, present the consent agenda items for tonight?
Certainly. Tonight we have the approval of the City Council meeting minutes of April 9th, 2019, the approval of the Director of Administration report for the month of March, the appointment of Ella Washington to the Fulton Housing Authority Commission, the reappointment of Denise Felt to the Fulton Housing Authority Commission, an acknowledgement of the following board and commission reports: the Historic Preservation Commission from March 19th of 2019 and the Public Utility Board from March 25th, 2019.
And just briefly, I'd also like to say that Councilman Simmons has accepted the appointment to be the liaison for the E-Board. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
And also, I'd just like to thank the department heads for, on such short notice, creating our department or director reports. I know that takes a little bit of time and it was short notice. I just want to thank you for that. And if there's any discussion,
I did have a couple of minor questions on the finance portion of the director's report.
So would you like to remove that for consideration?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. So we'll be removing the Director of Administration report. And otherwise, does anybody else have anything?
Motion to approve the agenda report.
Second.
got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say yes.
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 That passes. Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll consider that Director of Administration report.
So what do you have,
Yeah.
Mr.
The,
Simmons?
in the finance section, just, there were a couple of minor questions I had. We're 25% through the year, but there were two items, one of them being the admin line item was it 34%, which is over a third? So, yes.
Those percentages are going to be month by month. For example, administration encumbers some pretty big. There you go. How's that? Encumbers some,
The-
there you go.
Well, like this,
How's that?
like
Can you hear me?
street, like street maintenance was at 37.5,
Because
but I
they,
assumed it was front-end loaded because of the street sweeper.
because of the street sweeper, and by the same token, administration encumbers monies for EOC,
Oh,
for the
okay.
FADC chamber contribution. We enter those the first of the year, so they're always going to be above budget until it catches up at the
Okay,
end.
I saw the vehicle charges for the street, so, but I didn't see anything for the admin, and I wasn't aware of the EOC charges. And,
I think that was in the January report,
oh, okay.
so.
That's
to
a
clarify-
couple months ago.
Really quickly, you were actually talking about the financial report and maybe not the Director of Administration report?
Yes.
Wasn't that part of
Yes.
the directors?
It's
No.
so separate, but if,
That's okay.
Oh, then that's my
we will
fault.
get to, we will get to that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'll come back for the financials,
Okay.
unless you have a question on the,
Not anymore.
That's okay, cool.
So are there any questions about what you read in the department's reports or anything you want clarification on? So, okay.
Motion to approve the administrator's report.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All right. So, Ms. Holschlag, could you present the financial report now?
once again,
Oh, there it is.
There's your,
I'll remind you that March was a 3 payroll month, so expenses in every department and fund are proportionally higher than they would normally be.
of course.
The only two utility, and this goes to your question, the only two utility funds we had that showed a loss for the month of March were water and solid waste. Water purchased a $100,000 dump truck, so spent a lot of their capital early in the year. And solid waste bought a roll-off truck. I think it was $900. Part of that cost will be offset by the VW grant. Okay. In March, I accrued the 2018 claims that were incurred in 2018 but paid in 2019 from the health fund. I rolled those back to 2018, so our expenses were considerably less in health than they would normally be. Everything else is pretty straightforward. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Are there any more questions?
Motion to approve the financial report.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. Looks like we don't have unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business. It looks like we're going to hear from Kelsey Fletchall about the street fair.
Yes, she is.
Hi, my name's Kelsey Fletchall, and I'm the co-chair for the Fulton Street Fair, and this is Stephanie Hampton. I want to thank you all for allowing us to present tonight. A couple weeks ago, I met with the department heads with the city where we discussed the logistics of the street fair, and tonight I request permission to have the street fair June 21st through 22nd.
The department heads and I met with them. We went through the list pretty detailed. Just to be honest, it's a pun here. The department heads have a lot more experience with the street fair than the street fair committee. We know what to do. They've all done it many times. We're very fortunate to have a street fair committee that we do. It's a bunch of volunteers that donate probably hundreds of hours to allowing the community, citizens, and the area residents to have an enjoyable 2 days. And based on the level of commitment that they have, I think it's only appropriate that the city of Fulton provide some support. And the list that's contained in your packet tonight is their requested support, which is almost identical to the past years. There have been very, very few changes. And I even hate to have you ask me what they are because I don't think I could come up with any. But like I said, the department heads, they know the drill and they know what is expected of them. And we would, I'd sure recommend that we go ahead and approve that this evening.
I do have a question. Are you folks in touch with, I think it's Callaway 200? The committee that's doing the 200th anniversary for the county? Oh,
No, I mean, we're separate than that, but Doc Kreitzer, he's on both of them, actually.
Okay.
So he's kind of told us a little bit of ideas about next year,
okay, so they're not looking at getting involved
not for
for
this year.
this year?
Not this
No.
year, it'd be next
Okay,
year.
Possibly next year, doing something together.
okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
So it sounds like,
Motion to approve the request.
thank you,
Second.
Rick. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the street fair, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give us a call about a week early to jog our memory. Thank
There
you.
you go. Thanks, yeah, Robert. Thanks.
She knows how to get things done, I guess. Okay, next we have on the agenda, new business, Jennifer Wilkins going to present her request to operate a food truck in Carver Park. Welcome.
I guess I should speak into this too. My name is Jennifer Wilkins. I'm the owner of Smokin' Loud Cuisine. We recently obtained a business license to operate our business within Fulton. And what we wanted to do was come before you to also ask a variance or an exception to the current ordinance to not allow the food truck to operate on any city property. Primarily, what our goal was to be able to do community-type events. And so we were looking at potentially starting a basketball tournament throughout the month of May through August on Sundays, just to be able to promote community involvement and so forth. And that would be held within Carver Park. And then also annually, there have been many people prior to us that have supported the Peace Festival. And so we also wanted to inquire on redoing that event as well this year. Secondarily, outside of that request, we would also like to ask if there would be a possibility to potentially operate the business also on the streets of Fulton within the city. So we do understand, of course, that there are other businesses that are operating food establishments as well, and so we would always create common courtesy and so forth with those companies, and we wouldn't try and I guess, get in conflict with them in any way, operate right directly in front of their businesses and so forth. And of course, we would always want to, you know, if we're on the streets and there's parking and things like that, always be accommodating to those around us. But secondarily, we would also like to request that as a variance also.
Right now, we do not have an ordinance on the books that would allow them to operate on the streets or the park. I don't know, do you have insurance?
Yes, actually, I've been working with Courtney and also with Mr. Boone, I believe it was. I haven't met him yet, so I don't know.
Yeah, there he is. That's it.
Been communicating through email. We actually already have obliged and listed the city of Fulton on our insurance policy, so we are in accordance with it.
And I would like the city council to look at those as two separate requests. One for the Peace Festival tonight. Courtney has contacted several of the city clerks in the state and is getting model food truck ordinances. We just feel we need to get something authorized, if we're going to authorize this, to authorize this and not just give them kind of a permission blanket without us having some authorization. So we're not gonna have that done for, you know, this meeting or the next meeting, but she is getting some, and we're gonna try and come up with something that, you know, I've heard one town has a 13-page food truck ordinance.
Yes,
Oh,
they
my.
do get
That
very
is-
specific.
That is not my goal.
Now, do you currently operate a food truck like on private properties?
Yes, so we have been doing it in the Family Video parking lot. We also are a part of the Churchill Memorial anniversary in 2 weekends.
Oh, yeah.
And then also Morel's and Microbrewery.
And Microbrew,
We're a
uh-huh.
part of that. And then also, Kelsey has left, but I do plan on talking with her about the Fulton Street Fair too. But we're deeply rooted within the city. I went to Westminster. I grew up at South Callaway.
There you go.
And Fulton, and so, you know, my mother's been here forever.
And just
so-
for clarification to the city council, like she mentioned they're gonna be at Morel's and Microbrews. Well, we give Morel's and Microbrews kind of blanket permission to do what they wanna do downtown.
Yeah.
So they're answering to Morel's and Microbrews in
On
that situation, just as the food vendors do to the street fair committee during the street fair.
Correct.
This is a situation where they're really not answering, you know, they're just kind of out there on their own, looking to the community and sell some food. So, I mean, there are differences somewhat, and that's kind of why this request is different than usual.
And I think we would also, just for clarification, that we the park. So by that, wouldn't we almost be under some of those guidelines as well? I mean, you can't just,
Don't go there.
This Peace Festival,
sure,
is it at the same place?
correct.
Okay,
They both operate out of Carver Park.
Out of Carver.
okay.
But we also have been contacted by some other people that are looking to do some organizations with DARE and some different community involvement and things of that sort, and they were looking at Veterans Park, and so there were a couple other things that have actually come up. But because they're on city property, we've declined. But we would like, you know, again, that's kind of why I want to have two separate requests. You know, initially, we definitely want to try and promote the tournament throughout those months and the Peace Festival primarily. But secondarily, if we could also look at some other opportunities as well, we would appreciate that.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I'd
And-
definitely like to look at what other cities do, especially like, you know, Columbia has food trucks all over the place. I do
can
know
assure
that
you
a
we
lot
will
of
not-
times they are
We will
in,
not do that.
they are in parking lots, right, however. So I do see them often in parking lots, so it's a little bit different than on city property. But it would be nice to look into other cities.
I know your one request is to do the basketball tournament.
Right.
You're in one location in Carver Park. I don't have to me, that's a valid request, and I don't see a big problem with that. The blanket, go somewhere else in the city, you know, let's park in front of Beck's and take up 3 parking spaces when we don't have a whole lot of parking spaces downtown to start with, I think needs to be a separate issue. So, like Bill said, I think we can discuss the Carver Park issue tonight, but I think the go other places on public property needs to be at a further meeting.
Sure, and that's
Oh.
fair.
That
Okay.
needs to be considered in the ordinance and so on, correct.
And Courtney and I, like I said, we have been in communication, so as she progresses, you know, if you have additional questions for us, we can always revisit, you know, make sure we're in accommodation in accordance with whatever ordinances you place it there.
Sounds good. How long have you been doing this, huh?
Actually, we just started in January.
Oh, okay.
So we are new, but
Okay.
we're actually operating in St. Louis as well. After I left Westminster, I moved into the St. Louis area.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're doing both,
Uh-huh.
since we have roots within this community as well, we're, you know, we're familiar with a lot of the opportunities here also, and then, of course, we know the community, so.
Okay.
So I have a question. Do you pay sales tax
Yes,
to who?
it will, actually, the state of Missouri, so we have retail, it will go through Fulton. It will
Oh,
be listed.
okay.
Yep, so you will definitely,
Oh, okay.
That's a
I'm even
business.
happier.
yep,
Yeah, exactly.
you do get some of the profits.
Okay, because I know some food trucks pay sales tax to their home location for
No,
some reason. I don't
actually-
understand the rules, but.
Right. There's a lot of rules with food
Yeah.
trucks, let me tell you. The brick and mortar, it looks more pleasant each and every day. But with that, yes, so we do keep track. We have a machine that actually tracks not only our cash sales, but our credit card sales. So that way we can keep track of all the taxes based out of which location, and then we can issue those quarterly through the state.
Good,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
So being something very new to us, I'd just like to get some feedback from maybe Clay and Chief Myers about your thoughts, what issues may come up being in the park or on the street for that matter, if we're going that direction.
Sure.
We don't want to discourage this, it's something new, but.
But typically, our policies don't allow food trucks, and obviously, we don't have any city ordinances that allow for that. But in the past, we've declined those requests. As far as the Peace Festival and the basketball tournament, we don't see a problem with that, other than just making sure they do all the requirements, fill out all the paperwork. There's some fees. You do have to reserve a shelter. We require that you have $2 million worth of liability insurance, and things like that. And then if they were to ask for a waiver of the fees, they would have to come before the city council. And I think with all our special events, like large events that attract I think more than 200 people, they still have to get the city council approval. So anytime we have a large event or a sporting event or a festival, we refer them to the city council for approval.
Thank you.
I kind of echo what Clay said. I don't think there's an issue as far as I'm concerned in the parks. I think we need to really review and think about if we're going to allow them on the street. I think we probably need to have certain locations where they can set up around events that are taking place. But again, I think that probably needs to be a one-on-one with the council and our input, hopefully, and it needs to be addressed each individual event.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, hopefully as these food trucks get more popular, we'll learn more about it and try to observe what we see and what problems that we'll try to avoid.
Yeah, I think we need to do a lot of research on that. Look at what some of the other cities are doing and how they're managing that. But I think we certainly need to look at it because we're, I think, getting more and more requests. And so I think it's a good thing. So we just need to research it.
Yep. Thank you.
I have a question for Jennifer. You had mentioned that you're looking for permission to be in Fulton on the city streets. We're already talking about you having done events at Family Video and private parking lots. Can you give me an example of what exactly you mean by city streets? Because like Councilman Simmons had mentioned, we don't want you in front of Beck's, taking up parking spaces and possibly, infringing on their business space necessarily. But where exactly are you looking at? Because
So,
most of the time it's going to be private property, I assume? Parking lots of
Not
businesses?
necessarily. I mean,
Okay.
it is currently because that is a requirement and a stipulation of the current business license.
Right.
So we were issued the business license under the understanding that we would only operate on private property.
Okay.
So like with the Churchill event, we're gonna be in between the Delta and the KA house on Westminster's property. Just like Family Video, we're on their parking lot. But for a street operation, just as an example, now of course you guys have since put sideways parking, but like just for an example, if I pulled on the side of this building, I'm not necessarily blocking or intruding upon any other food establishment. But what I would potentially be doing is offering the opportunity to serve the clientele who come through the city of Fulton. We do have a website, so we promote that, so we can let everyone know, hey, we're going to be at Family Video this day, these hours. It's actually been pretty successful so far, just doing the Family Video side. But at the same time, you don't want to wear out your welcome with any of those private businesses. And a lot of times, too, because they are corporations, there's a hierarchy that you need to go through. So it is a little easier to request it of the city than it is to, let's say, go to Home Depot and try and, go through that conglomerate of
And the only reason I ask is my first concern is going to be in the places where I would assume you would want to be for benefit to your business are going to be parking issues, pedestrian issues, safety concerns for the citizens that are coming and going from where you are. So I think that should be something that we really look at closely with regard to where we allow you to park by ordinance.
Right, and in talking with Courtney, she did say that in looking at some of the other cities, there are designated places, so that definitely has been a consideration of the city. I won't say that it hasn't. I can tell you just with my exposure, living in St. Louis, going to each of the individual municipalities, a lot of times they will do something in good faith and then see how it works. And if you get cited twice, either by the health department or the city or anyone, then your variance is excluded. And so that would be not only for the basketball tournaments, but for the Peace Festival, but for any of the variances that you've given us. And so what that does is it also incentivizes the business to look at those things and be respectful of those things as they operate. But definitely with the walking, because it is a food truck, you have to come up.
And people are
That
going
is
to
a
want to
consideration.
stand around and visit, and so,
Definitely.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So we'll obviously be learning a lot more about this. We appreciate you coming. Do we want to ask for a motion to approve the first part of this?
Sounds good to me.
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the use of during the basketball tournament and so on at Carver Park. Yes, for food.
Second.
And that was also including the Peace Festival, or just the basketball
Yes.
tournament? Okay, thank
That
you.
was just the two events. Thank you.
So we got a motion. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
None opposed? That passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to Jennifer Gingrich on behalf of Kingdom Homeschoolers. We'll talk about using the soccer pavilion.
Good evening. We have, my name is Jennifer Gingrich, and I'm here on behalf of Kingdom Homeschoolers, which is a homeschool group based here out of Fulton for Callaway County, families that are homeschooling their children. And we are asking for a fee waiver for the use of Morgan Soccer Complex on May 18th from 4 to 8 p.m. so that we can have our end of the year picnic and kind of like a field day type thing that we do for our kids at the end of the year. In years past, we have had a fee waiver from the city to be able to use that at no cost. And this year, when we contacted Courtney, she said we would have to come and speak with you to be able to ask to have that waived again. And we typically use it twice a year, once at Morgan Soccer Complex in the spring to do this event. And then typically again in September, we do kind of like a welcome social for our families at the pavilion at Veterans Park.
So this is on Friday, the
Yes.
17th?
It's Friday the 17th from
Okay.
4 to 8 p.m.
Okay, you said 18th, but that's,
Oh.
okay.
I've done that twice today now.
Okay.
Motion to approve the waiver.
Second.
Is there any more discussion on this? I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
And opposed? You got it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Tanglewood Clubhouse renovation.
Discussion.
At our last meeting, we talked about the current plan was to just do the bathrooms. And I think it was Councilman Braun that asked to get a price to do the kitchen as well and behind the bar.
Yeah, the original bid when we put it out was for restrooms, kitchen, and the serving area, the bar area. We didn't feel like we had enough money in the budget to do all three, so we decided that the restrooms were the top priority, and that's what we brought to you last time. Councilman Braun brought up the discussion of doing the kitchen and the serving area. So in your packet is a revised memo that shows the amounts for doing each area. You're around $5,500 for the kitchen and another $2,000 for the serving area. So about roughly $7,500 if we were to do those two projects or add those to the existing project.
So if I,
Go ahead.
if I looked at all the numbers correctly, we've got a total of $9,000 budgeted to do remodeling in the building.
That's correct.
The restroom already takes up $8,300, plus I guess we've already bought some,
We
we've
did.
already
That doesn't-
expended some money.
Yeah, that's about, we've spent it probably around $3,600 on materials.
Okay.
So we're over budget on that item.
But we've already approved the restrooms, right? Or are we,
Well,
Yes.
Yes.
okay.
yes.
Now, part of the budget that you have is to buy some mowers for the golf course, but I think we've already bought them,
We have,
right?
yes.
So there's no offset that we can really do.
Yeah.
There's
And-
no $30,000 offset, we can not
Land
buy a
somewhere,
mower.
yeah.
No, and we weren't able to go under budget on any of those items too. They
Yeah.
were very tight, very expensive, so.
I think we've already got the restrooms to go after, the kitchen and bar area. You know, that's another $7,600. Do we really want to do that now? It's not in the budget. We don't have the money to do it. I'd say we hold that off to next year. You've got $9,000 budgeted for next year for renovation.
Yeah, and that's your choice. Like I said, the kitchen's 21 years old. It's dirty, it's got mold in the tile. It needs to be thoroughly cleaned, gutted. It needs to do walls, it needs to do flooring. Whether we do it now or next year or the year after, it needs attention. The whole building needs some attention because
Well,
it's getting
My
old.
recommendation is, we've already approved the bathrooms. Let's do the kitchen and bar area next year, but let's do it in the wintertime when nobody's there. Not in the middle of golf season.
Well, I'll just say that this bid was put together very early on in the year.
Okay.
So that wasn't the intention to do it in April and May.
Yeah.
But there are several factors that,
Well, we could even put the bid out in October, November with a January 3 start date once the new budget's adopted.
Yeah,
Or-
that's fine.
The safety in
But-
the kitchen, excuse me. Are we okay with the safety in the kitchen? You mentioned mold. I don't like that word.
health inspector was out there last week. She's looked at it. I mean, for the most part, we're keeping it fairly clean. There's little things like most restaurants that we gotta touch up on. We clean the floor, we scrub the floor, we do our best with it. But it's kind of at a point it needs to have something done, whether this year or next year. It's just getting in bad shape. We got, on the walk-in cooler wall, the wall coverings are just falling off. It's just.
It'd be cheaper this year than next year, wouldn't it?
Well,
Everything costs
well,
more.
if you could start on the kitchen could turn into $40,000.
Yeah. We need to look at our budget next year for that. Make sure that-
And like I said, it doesn't matter to me when we do it. That's your all's decision. But I would say that if you just bid those two items next year, they're probably going to be more expensive because they're not lumped in
Of course
with,
it will, yeah.
with this package.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider as well. But again, that's up to the council.
My feeling is we take care of the restrooms and we hold off doing the rest of the stuff. There's just not money in the budget for it.
One thing to consider, the bathrooms are going to be the biggest impact on the customer experience. And that's what we want to get more people out there that want to be there. If we can increase that, then the money becomes less of an issue if we get more people golfing. So,
Steve had something over there.
Yeah, I had a question. A question and statement. If I could make an appointment with Mr. Johnson and Clay this week, I'd like to show him, because I explained to Clay, churches are the tightest people there are when it comes to fixing something. And we found a company out of Columbia that helped us out, and we simply replaced some of the tiles. And about what Clay was talking about, the grime and stuff in it, if we can meet, I'll show you what they did, and it's an unbelievable job. And it saved us tons of money.
Give us a call.
Okay?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
thank you, Councilman Moore.
So are we looking for a motion to do something, or?
No.
Nope, okay.
Just
I think
wait
we're
till
not
they
doing
take a
anything, we
look,
don't need a
and
motion.
and we'll get a
Motion
price.
to
and
not do anything.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A motion to
Thank you.
hold off on that?
Thanks, Clay.
Thank you.
Okay. So moving on, Fulton Fire Department Narcan discussion. Chief Kofelt is requesting that we allow the fire department to start carrying the drug Narcan. Tell us a little bit about that.
Is there any questions other than what was in the packet? Do you have any questions?
Do the whole description.
Basically, Narcan it reverses the effects of opioids. There's been an increase in non-intentional overdoses, and within 1 to 3 minutes, this drug will reverse the effects of it. When they take these opioids, it slows their breathing down, and they actually stop breathing. And with this drug, it will reverse the effects and bring that, help them start breathing again. There's no cost to the city for this. It's supplied through Callaway Ambulance District, and I think they will be reimbursed through the state.
training or certifications
Yeah.
or requirements, liability?
Yeah.
There's no harmful side effects of the drug. We do have protocols in place already in our EMS protocols to use this. We would have to take a very short training session with Callaway Ambulance. Each person will before we are able to administer it, but it's very short and very quick. They're talking like maybe 30-minute class.
If you show up at the scene and find somebody non-responsive, how do you know that it's an opioid overdose and not a heart attack?
We usually, you can tell by looking, look for needles, look for signs of drug use in the house or wherever they're at. And usually, you can tell by that environment.
Does the drug have any effect on someone that's not suffering an overdose? If you administered to somebody that was having a heart attack, would there be any effect?
No, I asked that question through the Callaway Ambulance District, and they said no, could not harm them. And this not only to save drug users' lives. It's we're as first responders, we're getting contact with this fentanyl out in doing car searches for police department. They're getting this on their hands. It's going in their pores. And automatically they're starting to have breathing problems. So it's not only to save drug users' lives, it's to save the first responders' lives as well.
Yeah.
So it works for fentanyl also?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion to approve the fire department's
Second.
request.
Are there any more questions or discussion on this? Is this something we would want to do on a trial basis? And also, are there going to be documentation of what the process produces?
Yes, every time that we would use this in the field, we would have to fill out a form, and it would be documented that we used that to be reimbursed, to get another supply of it. So there'll be plenty of documentation on our reports as well.
With the way that the opiate drug atmosphere is going right now, I don't think a trial is even necessary. Let's just go right ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, we could always.
We can always stop it if it doesn't. If it becomes where we don't need it anymore. We can always hope that happens. So.
Of course.
I feel if we save one life from it, we've
That's for sure.
accomplished something. So
Yep.
I think it's important to start carrying it.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
So if there's no more questions, I'll call we have a motion on the floor. I'll call for the question. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
And opposed? That passes. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, council concerns. I'll start, where did I start last time?
They all pointed that way.
We'll let Councilwoman Sabacher start it.
I have nothing.
Nothing? Councilman Simmons?
Sure. We've started implementing kind of enhanced security within City Hall. I think what we've done is going to be a lot more effective, but we've had some concerns about other items, and I was wondering if some sort of training for the people that actually talk to the citizens would be beneficial. Some sort of conflict resolution, and not just the people that are in City Hall, the people that are actually out in the field, the linemen and the laborers and the meter readers and everybody else. They probably have more impact with the citizens than a lot of people in City Hall. And go ahead.
Ballard came in to see me this morning. This is one of the questions that he had. I just kind of want to point out one of the benefits of him coming in and asking me this question earlier today is I was able to ask the police chief to be prepared to have a statement and an answer and some additional information concerning this discussion. So Steve, with that, what an incredible segue.
I do have one of my detectives, Kent, who does conflict resolution, and that's what we basically call it today. Years ago, when I went through it, it was called verbal judo. They've changed that totally to conflict resolution now, and I do have a team that we're a part of. It consists of a lot of different entities in the city and county. But I do have someone that could train in that if you all choose to do that.
So then, when Steve and I were talking about this, he could make his individual available for a couple of sessions at the warehouse so that people could kind of come, if they didn't were busy, they could come at another time. We could do a couple of sessions here at City Hall so that we could keep the building functioning for, how long would a session be?
How long? It can be probably, the least it could be would probably be about an hour.
I like that.
Or we can do 8 hours.
No.
You might need to put that conflict resolution into action.
So, I mean, if the council thinks that's a great idea, I'll work with Michelle and Steve, and we'll get some training scheduled for just about everybody. Just about, like Ballard said, the meter readers, they deal with people on a daily basis. I mean, lots of employees do, but, they kind of walk around somebody's house unannounced, uninvited, and, sometimes they get people that aren't real happy with them.
I mean, you get power going out in somebody's house, and the first person they're gonna see is gonna be a lineman.
Right.
And they're gonna be upset, because they don't have any power.
But usually when someone doesn't have power, they're pretty happy to see that
True.
light.
Yeah.
That's the guy they want to see.
Yeah.
Where the hell you been, maybe?
So I think it's a good idea, and it's all in-house
My
resources.
department goes through crisis intervention training, which this is just a small part
Yeah.
of. We deal with
Okay.
mentally ill people. I mean, they're even taught to deal with, because of the high rate of suicides and law enforcement. We have a segment on that as well. So, yeah, it would be just real simple to do something for the entire city or however you want to do it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think everybody that's employed by the city would benefit from it.
Is that something you want to set up annually, semi-annually, to catch new folks as they come in?
Part of the hiring procedure, maybe.
Let's get the first one under our belt, see how it goes.
Yeah.
And we do some trainings annually. We do some every 2 years. So let's get the first one done. See how it goes. See what people think, and proceed from there. I think it's a good idea.
So do we need a motion, or?
No, you just
Nope.
I recommend we do it.
good.
Anybody not recommend we do it?
I think so.
Okay, by acclamation.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Steve.
Chief.
Plan on it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
That's the only
Thank you,
item I had.
Chief.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
we'll move on to Councilwoman Raku.
I'd like to bring up something, on the next agenda or two. I'd like to consider the mayor and the city council that will review a little increase in our pay.
We could probably add that to the other one that I requested last meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
And we were actually talking about that we might just do a work session on charter concerns. There's some things in our city charter that, well, maybe not revamp the whole thing, but we might, I think Courtney would like at least half a dozen or a dozen things cleaned up that we've seen.
Yes.
We could talk about that as well as your concern about the
Next work session.
signatures.
We'll add that to the work session.
It's going to be you.
I suspected.
It's going to be you.
I wasn't going to say anything tonight.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Councilwoman Pace-Snuck?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and I know Mr. Stone also wanted to express his appreciation for the fire department. We had a couple of big fires. I think it was Thursday morning, and nobody was hurt, and it was a good response. So thank you.
Very good.
That's all.
All right. Councilman Moore?
Well, I have a couple. First, I'd like to thank Mrs. Snook for reminding me about the soup kitchen. It was very interesting, and they did a very nice job in the remodeling, so Mayor was there. Now, my first one, Mr. Johnson sent out us emails about safety, and as I came down and talked to him, I still would like to see some glass at my main concern was the utility department. And it doesn't have to be bulletproof of that, but just something between the customer and the ladies behind there. So that was my main concern, so I could live with that. And then the other one, I want to say to a department head that he's working very hard, because I notice in my ward, there is the one house, if you haven't drove by on the corner of 8th and Walnut, either they must going to ask a good price for that, or I've never seen one crew go in and work so fast, and I mean, they really took that thing apart and putting it back. And, but my main concern is, here's one, I haven't talked to Dennis, but I think I said something to Mr. Johnson. Can we have an ordinance that a blue tarp can only stay on a house for 6 months or a year? I'm serious. People, if you own and you're going to rent it, fix the roof, please. And then in the wind, how many blue tarps came off? And
Steve, we have broached on the topic of rental inspections 3 or 4 times in 20 years.
I know.
And every time we talk about rental inspections, the room gets full, and the council says, oh, it's just fine the way it is.
But on this one,
It's a
if
rental
it doesn't
inspection.
apply to you, then, I mean, it's only they know who they are, and I mean, the blue tarp people. But then on yards, I'm already starting to get complaints.
Oh, yeah.
And I did say something to Mr. John. It would probably cost us money, but I don't know can we go in and clean them up and send them a notification first, but go in and clean them up and say, hey, you're going to be billed the price of, a regular lawn crew onto your taxes.
Yeah,
If
put on
we
taxes,
inherit it in the end, I guess we just get more property with a vacant lot. But, I mean, there are some, hey, I wouldn't want to, if you drive, I won't point out the address, but if you drive down the street, would you want to live beside some of the things you see in this town?
No.
And it doesn't make us look good as a community either.
Okay,
And we do have a weed ordinance, don't we?
yes.
We do.
So there's a process, but it may not be exactly what we all envision and how it works, but I know we've talked about this for 10 years.
Yes.
That I've been around.
Damn, you're the mayor, and then you can help me do it.
Yeah. now he's the
We
mayor.
may not be popular, but to some people would be really popular if we do something about it. And my last one was, since we have, well, Lindsay's not new, but Ms. Seebach is, but if we could do a convenient time with the administration, a tour of what the city has to offer. I don't know, you probably don't even know every little spot in the city that we have.
I know a couple.
Couple.
She had a tour. Didn't you have a tour already? Yeah.
I did.
She had a tour.
Valerie has taken about a 2-hour tour of a couple of them. And we ran out of time, and I extended an invitation. So if she figures out a time that she wants to go hit some more, I can send out an email or something to everybody saying,
Pretty cool.
this is an opportunity if you're interested.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Great.
fair enough. That's all I have.
Okay.
Yeah, the 4-hour tour is the one you get deserted on the island.
Yeah.
nothing.
It's called
Thank you.
Extinction Island or something. Yeah. That's
Just
where you
as long
go.
as that island's not in the middle of the sewer plant. Okay. Oh, yeah, so before we move on, Michelle would like to present the council folks with something here. I've already got mine, so.
Oh, get something.
So the IT manager and I worked together today to create your City Hall key cards so that you can access and come and talk with us.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I like neighborhood cookies.
So now when you come to City Hall, you scan this across
Thank
the
you,
little
dear.
red bar light next to the door. It's got to be pretty close,
Okay.
and the door will unlock and you pull to open.
Very good.
Great.
Thank you.
I hadn't got one of these new ones in a long time.
Okay.
Even as my new picture.
Thanks, Michelle. You can have that.
There's my new picture too.
Very cool technology there.
Yep, it's your.
Okay, so moving on to resolutions, Councilman Simmons, would you please present resolution number 3341?
Yes, sir. Resolution number 3341, a resolution authorizing the destruction of city records that have met retention requirements in accordance with the RSMO Chapter 109 and applicable state retention schedules. I make a recommendation that we approve resolution number 3341 at this meeting.
Second.
Is there any discussion on this? We all kind of know what it is. If there's no discussion, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 All those opposed? That passes. Okay, so ordinances, we'll move on to ordinances. First, consider the first reading ordinances. Councilwoman Seebacher, would you please present bill number 1538 by title only?
Yes, sir. Bill number 1538, an ordinance repealing Chapter 14, Animals, Fulton City Code, enacting a new chapter in lieu thereof, and establishing an effective date. I make a motion to place bill number 1538 for second reading at the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Second.
So, in coming up with this ordinance, did we copycat off of another city of any sort, or we just?
No, this is our ordinance. We did not have public property. We have public walkways, but we didn't have public property in there. So if they did something on public property, we couldn't do anything about it.
Gotcha. So we
So
just
that-
added that little
We just
addendum
added
to it.
that little thing.
Yes.
Didn't we modify the acreage?
The acre, we clarified it.
Yeah.
So you have to have an acre now to have any animals. Whereas before, it was-
Farmland.
It was stretched a
Right.
little bit.
Makes it,
Livestock or fowl.
makes it, okay.
So.
And otherwise, Tina, the animal shelter supervisor, and Dennis also kind of looked through the ordinance that you guys received today. There were some house cleaning measures as far as just cleaning things up, tightening things up, but those two items were really the only things that changed policies within the ordinance.
Okay.
Excellent. So is there any more discussion on this? I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That passes. Okay, Councilwoman Reclus, would you please present bill number 1536 by title only?
Yes, I'd like to do second and third reading tonight. Is
Okay.
okay? Okay. Bill number 1536, an ordinance reclassifying under the zoning ordinance a tract of land known as 2705 Westminster Avenue in Fulton, Missouri, and establish an effective date. I'd like to place bill number 1536 for third reading at tonight's meeting.
Second.
Okay.
And we've discussed this before. I don't think there's any concerns or discussion to be had on it unless somebody has something else to add. So I'll call for the question. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
No? Yeses have it. So if you would, please read third reading.
Yes. Bill number 1536, an ordinance reclassifying under the zoning ordinance a tract of land known as 2705 Westminster Avenue in Fulton, Missouri, and establish an effective date. I make a motion that bill number 1536 be voted on tonight for third reading tonight, meeting. Thank you.
Final passage, we got it. You're good.
Final meeting, thank you.
Second.
Word.
Second. So we call for everyone has to say yes now. Is that right, Courtney?
Actually, we'll go ahead and do, okay, we'll do
I
one more
spit it
vote.
out.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Very
For
good.
third read.
Okay, so is there any more discussion on that? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we've had third reading. You've heard Bill 1536 read three times. Please make your final consideration and answer yes or no as the clerk reads your name.
Okay, Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Pace Snook?
Yes.
Ms. Reclue?
Yes?
Ms. Seebacher?
Yes.
Mr. Shiverdecker?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
6 council members affirmative and 2 absent.
Bill passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll now consider first reading ordinances. Councilman Shiverdecker, would you present Bill number 1537 by title only?
Third reading. Bill number 1537, an ordinance reclassifying under the zoning ordinance a tract of land known as 2605 Westminster Avenue in Fulton, Missouri, and establishing an effective date. I make a motion that we 1537 for final consideration at tonight's meeting.
Second.
Is there any discussion on this? Not hearing any. I'll ask for the question. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That bill passes. We've heard that, or the ordinance passes. We've heard that read three times. If you'll please make your final consideration now to answer yes or no as the clerk reads your name.
Okay, Ms. Pace Snook?
Yes.
Ms. Reclue?
Yes.
Ms. Seebacher?
Yes.
Mr. Shiverdecker?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
And Mr. Moore?
Yes.
6 council members.
That bill passes. So that's, we'll move on to announcements. Madam Clerk, if you would please present those.
Definitely. Lauber Municipal Law is going to host that city officials training seminar in Jefferson City this coming Friday. For those of you who are registered to attend, you know who you are. The next city council meeting will be held Tuesday, May 14th, 2019. A work session will commence at 6:30 unless otherwise noted, and regular session will follow at 7 o'clock. And the city of Centralia will host the next MML Central Division meeting on Wednesday, May 22nd, 2019. Council members who wish to attend must RSVP with the city clerk no later than Tuesday, May 14th.
So I assume logistics for Friday, we'll get an email soon?
That is my hope as well.
Okay.
What time
Probably
does
about
this
5
start?
minutes
What
before
was that?
8. About 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. Meet here.
It would be a little tough to make it to Jeff City by 8:30 if we have to be here at 8.
Well,
Unless you're driving and then.
I am driving.
At 8:15.
well, and if we want to do it a little before, see, registration's at 8:30,
Yeah,
to 8:30 to 9,
yeah.
okay? So we really have until 9 o'clock to get there.
But that's breakfast too, isn't it?
Quarter till 8? How about a quarter to 8?
Well, are we, no, I mean, are we going to eat breakfast there? Is that the plan? Or?
I think they're going to have
So
a
quarter to 8.
quarter to 8, 7:45. You going?
Okay.
That wasn't so hard now, was it?
And you'll receive a follow-up email with all that
I
information.
understand, yes.
Okay.
I do have one quick announcement. This Saturday night, Presbyterian Manor is having their Good Samaritan fundraiser. It's pulled pork. There's going to be a silent auction as well as a short live auction. And the proceeds go to fund folks that can't afford to stay in the nursing home. So I'd invite you all to go. I've got tickets for sale if you got a free Saturday night, last couple of hours. Any other announcements? I do not have a need for executive session, so
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
At 7:29?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.